Okay, welcome to the Stagecoach podcast. We're visiting today with Leroy Peters. His book, Where the Wind Takes You, is going to be uploaded today, as a matter of fact, on our podcast and our YouTube channel. And Leroy has many more books available. So we're going to talk with Leroy about his books and what it means to be an author. And gosh, we're excited to talk with you today, Leroy.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Great. When did you begin your career as a writer?
I probably started writing when I was in the military. That I would say actually my last year in the military, about 2008, and I did some self-publishing after I got out, but I didn't join Dusty Saddle till summer of 2021, and that's when I published um my first two books in the Edge of the World trilogy. And the book that's being downloaded today, Where the Wind Takes You, that's my standalone novel. I published that in October of 2021. And I've been with Dusty Saddle since then. I've already done 8 books already. I'm working on my 9th one right now.
Wow, that is fantastic. I didn't realize that you had so many books out. That's great. Um, Tell me, how did it feel to have that very first book published?
Honestly, relief, because trying to find a publisher that wasn't a self-publishing company was very stressful. I had to do a lot of praying and for patience. And once I finished the first book, I worked on the second one, then the standalone novel, and then I was working on the third. By the time I published, by the time I found Dusty Saddle Publishing, I'd already completed the first 2 books in my Edge of the World trilogy, my standalone novel. I was working on the third book, Two Worlds, One Family, which was published in January of last year. And I have to thank Harvey Wood. He's an author for Dusty Saddle. He found me, believe it or not. Here's the story. I was vacationing in Huntsville, Alabama with my cousin. We were at his sister's house. I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning, Huntsville, Alabama time. And Harvey Wood texted me on Facebook Messenger telling me about Dusty Saddle. And I was still awake. We were watching TV at the time. So I took that as a sign, and I was a fool. I'll be a fool to not look it up. So I contacted Nick Whale from Dusty Saddle, and the rest is, as you say, is history.
Oh, how interesting. What made you decide to write Westerns?
Well, it's not just Western. Set in the fur trade around Lewis and Clark, mountain men, way before the cowboys and Indians. When it was just mountain men and Indians. It was this, believe it or not, it was a TV miniseries called Into the West that came out in June of 2005, and the 6-part miniseries, and the first episode was about the mountain men. And after I saw that, I looked up certain famous trappers. I was reading different biographies of famous trappers such as Jedediah Smith, Joe Meek, Jim Bridger, Joe Walker, Edward Rose, who was the first Black mountain man, John Coulter, and some of the minor mountain men like John Simpson Smith and William Bent, and uh, that's all I can name on top of my head. And I started reading other novels that are set in the fur trade by I would say the first author whose books I looked up was Win Blevins and his Rendezvous series. Then I started reading a series called the Wilderness series by David Robbins, And then I started reading books by John Legg, W. Michael Gere. And then I found probably one of the best Western series that I've ever read that's set in the fur trade, the Grizzly Killer series by Leonard Rowinski, who is a good man, who I consider a friend.
Yeah.
In fact, it was his books that definitely re-energized me to try writing novels again and set in the fur trade.
Okay. Well, your novels are full of historical fact, and I find that really interesting. You must do a tremendous amount of research when you're writing your books.
Yes. I don't know if, compared to other authors, I don't know if my research is up to par, but I do my best. I know when I did Where the Wind Takes You, I did a lot of research on the tribes that would, like, such as the Assiniboine and Hidatsa tribe. Also, John Coulter, famous historic people who were be around this time, like, such as John Coulter, William Clark from the Lewis and Clark expedition, and and Manuel Lisa. And like I picked the timeline in 1806, but the main character, he was from my I have him from my late grandmother's hometown of Beaufort, South Carolina. So I had to research Beaufort, South Carolina, what that would be like in 1806. So, and mostly I had to look up Wikipedia and also the website of Beaufort, South Carolina. But that's what I do. And sometimes I just get an idea in my head, and I thank my cousin for this because he got me a diary. And anytime I daydream of an idea of a story, and once I'm ready to start writing, I just start typing. Most of my books, especially from my newest series, Saga of the Armstrong Brothers, and my first trilogy, Edge of the World, my characters are often mimicked after my dad because my I'm very close to my father, so maybe I'm a little biased, but he's probably the most decent human being that I know. He taught me what being a man is all about. So I take a lot of his characteristics and put it into my characters, you know, how how they treat other people, how they treat each other, how they raise their families. I would say my characters are like ahead of their time because we're talking about during a time where there was no such where women weren't equal, not in those days.
Mhm.
Marriage was mostly based off of necessity instead of love, and I think the hardest part for me, you can't get around the fact of slavery. Slavery existed. That's one thing I definitely in my novels. You have to you have to admit the fact that slavery existed. But despite, I try to um have my characters to see things from the native and the black point of view. Even though they're white, they try to they have a very anti-slavery viewpoint of the world, or anti-white supremacist viewpoint of the world. No offense to you as a white person. Um, but it's like when I look at my books now, when I see what's going on in the world today, um, as a history major, we can't forget that America, especially during this time, during the 1800s and the 1820s and 30s, America was ruled by a very racist viewpoint. One thing I love about the fur trade is that a lot of trappers who came out west, not just the black trappers, because obviously black mountain men came out west for obvious reasons, but east also a lot of white trappers came out west for the same reason. They were trying to escape the chains of civilization because from the 1800s up to the 1840s, there was no law west of the Mississippi River. So they basically came for freedom, and that's why I enjoy writing about my novels.
Okay, very interesting. Well, I think that your development of your characters and, all the historical facts in your books are part of what makes your books so unique and special. And the readers love them. So I think that's
Yeah, well, unfortunately, not all of them. Like I told Kevin Diamond the other day, um, among the negative criticisms I got is that my books are too politically correct. Well, I don't know any other way to write, but to me, that's telling the truth about American history. And don't get me wrong, I love America. I'm proud to be born in America, but as a history as someone who studied history in college, who majored in history, we can't ignore the dark past of our country, but we can also praise some of the good things our country's done. You got to take the good with the bad, balance.
that's right. That's absolutely right. Well, what kind of advice would you give a new a new author who would like to maybe start writing but isn't quite sure where to start?
Well, first and foremost, come to Dusty Saddle. That'll be and avoid self-publishing. That's my advice. Also, just I know not everyone is religious or like I pray a lot, and I would say just follow your heart, trust your instincts, and write from the heart, and be honest. I mean, that's the best way I could say it.
Hmm. That's yeah.
And because I feel when I write my stories, I write from the heart, and I feel the need to tell the truth through my stories. And like I said, among the negative criticism I got is that my books are politically correct. Well, if you're looking for a novel, a Western novel with the John Wayne lens, my books aren't for you then.
Well, what are you working on now? What's your next book?
Right now I'm currently working on the fifth book in the saga of the Armstrong Brothers series. I'm taking my time. I've already written 11 chapters, and I like to finish it by June. But if not, I mean, it's not a. I've already, like I said, I've already published 8 books, and like in 2021 when I started writing for Dusty Saddle, I published 3. Last year I published 4, and I just published the fourth book in the Armstrong Brothers series back in February. So, I mean, writing is very time consuming, and I'm just learning to slow down and not be in such a rush, you know.
Mhm.
But the title of this newest one I'm writing, I call it The River of Dreams. And like I said, I'm hoping to finish it by June before I head out to Rapid City, South Dakota for the Western Writers of America convention.
Oh, well, that sounds like an interesting place to go. I tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I joined the Western Writers of America Association, I think in August of last year, and their convention is going to be held from June 21st to 24th in Rapid City, South Dakota. I've been to that's where Mount Rushmore is. I've been there, and I'm looking for this be my first time going there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great. It'll be a wonderful
I
place to
think
promote your books.
Yeah, a lot of authors will be there. I'm hoping to talk to some. I know one of my favorite authors, W. Michael Gear, and his wife Kathleen will be there. I've been talking to them on Facebook, and I'm looking forward to meeting them in person.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I know that you're published by Dusty Saddles Publishing and that we can find your books on Amazon,
Hmm.
both in Kindle format and in paperback.
And
Um,
I've been told that they're also going to be in audio books soon. All my books.
mhm, great. And then, of
Uh,
course, we have you here on our podcast.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to reading that, hearing that too.
Yeah.
I have to say, of all my books, Where the Wind Takes You is probably my favorite. I mean, I have to say the character, while all the other characters are mostly mimicked after my dad, I have to say main character for my trilogy, Azrael Hancock, is part me, part my dad. While this one, the character is more me, and and it's basically a coming of age story because the character is very young when he comes out west. And back, that's another thing people don't realize. Back in those days, if you're 16 years old, you're in 1806. If you're 16 years old, you're considered an adult because I think because of the high mortality rate, people married young, and young young girls, young women as young as 12 got married. And so, I mean, today that would probably disgust us. I know it would disgust me, but back then that was the norm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's see, your Facebook page. Tell us how we can reach you on your Facebook page.
Um, just go on Facebook, type in Leroy A. Peters, and you should. Let me go on my cell phone here. You should be able to find my picture. Just want to make sure.
We'll put a link to your page in the comments below also, and that way they.
Yeah, here's my Facebook profile on my cell phone. It has this picture of me. That's me. That's where you can find me.
All right. Gosh, it's been so nice talking with you today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the story that we're uploading,
Thank
that Where the
you.
Wind
And
Takes You.
I'm looking forward to hearing it too. I'm very excited. And I want to thank you. I want to thank Dusty Saddle Publishing for giving me the opportunity to publish my books. And I try to encourage a lot of people, especially 'cause a lot of my American Indian friends back in Montana, or any American Indian who's an author and writes westerns. They're looking for a publisher. I try to tell them to come to Dusty Saddle Publishing because their story needs to be told.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. Well, thank you, Leroy, and
Thank
gosh, it's
you.
been a pleasure.
It was my pleasure also. You have a good day.